The Untangled Blueprint, Lesson 13, the one where you learn to drive the bus. This is our intro to IFS, or internal family systems, in creating internal boundaries. So, over the past several lessons, we've journeyed together into this world of boundaries and trust and all those good things. And we learned that healthy boundaries are loving shields that act as these guidelines to ourselves and to other people in order to protect our values, our safety, and our resources. We learned that the right kind of boundaries allow the right experiences in and keep the negative, lower energy and people and frequencies out of our lives. They also protect us and the people we love the most from the triggered versions of ourselves that have the ability to bring everyone off their docks and into the water of the drama triangle. In Brene Brown's framework of the Braving acronym, she illustrated what it really means to have boundaries, be brave and reliable, have accountability, be impeccable with our word, live in integrity, offer a non judgmental atmosphere for people, and be very, very, very generous in our assumptions about other people and their intentions. We know we can use this acronym to help us determine what our expectations are for how others treat us. But we can also use this framework as a barometer for how we treat ourselves to measure our own level of self love and self respect. Brene reminds us that you can't ask other people to give you something that you don't believe you're worthy of receiving or giving to yourself. And she followed it up with Maya Angelou's quote with the same sentiment that warned us not to trust people who don't love and trust themselves. In other words, boundaries teach us that self love is a must in this work we're doing, and that self trust is the pathway to self love. So, how do we learn to trust ourselves above anyone else, especially when we were taught most of our lives to go against what many of us knew in our souls to be the truth? And we felt it in our guts that we were right for so long, and it was drilled into us. The way society thought about things, or the way our parents thought about things, or the way our culture thought about things was the right way. So, in today's lesson, we're going to focus on just that, on how to learn to trust your own voice, your own intuition, your own internal guidance system, and make sure that it's leading us in the right direction, in the direction that we want to go in the direction of our goals and that feel good life that we all want. And we're going to learn why so many of us don't follow that guidance system. Okay. So our work on boundaries gave us this extremely powerful external framework for protecting our emotional space and our values and our resources by helping us recognize those external triggers that could cause us to fall off our docks or stay in the water for much longer than we'd like to. Sometimes it's because of internal reasons that we fall in. And that's what this lesson is all about. Sometimes we're the cause of the waves of destruction that take us down. Sometimes when we feel stuck, when we self sabotage, or when our actions fall far below the line, despite our best efforts, it's actually an internal part of us that is the reason for the instability. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. Because once we recognize these internal parts that might not have the best interest of our feel good life as their forefront of what they want for us, we're going to be able to talk to them, and we're going to be able to know which parts of ourselves to trust the most. Okay. Sometimes there are parts inside of us that might be guiding us against our better judgment to the places we don't want to go, and we know it. Those are the parts that are saying, don't go there. Don't say that. Don't change. Don't leave. Don't. But what they're really saying is not, we don't want you to feel good. It feels that way. But what they're really saying is, we want to keep you safe. And they actually believe that what they're doing is really the best thing for you, for the safety of you, not for the happiness of you, for the safety of you. And we talked about this a lot in previous lessons on limiting beliefs and fears, right? So in today's final lesson on boundaries, we're going to learn to turn our attention inward, to put some boundaries on those parts that are trying to get our attention and keep us from doing the things we know we want to do. Namely, we're going to work on this one last boundary, and that is don't let the porch drive the bus. You're going to see why I'm saying it like that in a second. I don't know if you've ever heard of the children's book, Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus. But when my kids were little, this was one of their favorite books. In the book, there is this pigeon, and all he wanted to do was drive this city bus. And the city bus driver has to take a break. And then he puts you, the reader, in charge of watching the bus when he's gone. And more importantly, in charge of making sure that this one determined pigeon does not get behind the wheel and drive his bus. It's really a great book. It's so funny. You'll laugh out loud reading it because the pigeon is really quite the persuasive little fucker. He pulls out all sorts of tricks and he tries to convince the reader to let him take the wheel. He begs and he whines and he makes these big boastful promises. But no matter what, you, the reader, cannot succumb and believe him, and you cannot let the pigeon drive the bus. So today, I want you to think of your mind as that city bus. Up until now, you've been working really hard to set limits at the door of the bus. We've been watching who gets on and who gets off. We're protecting the contents of the bus, which is the values and the resources, and we're turning away anyone and anything that could disrupt the energy on board. Kindly, lovingly, but we've put up that boundary, and that's what we've been doing. This personal growth work we've been doing for the past few weeks has paid off. You're starting to realize that you like the vibe on your bus when you're in control of who gets on and who gets off. You wake up every day excited to see where the bus is going to take you. You wake up confident that you can handle whatever roadblocks may come your way on the trip that day. You are making note of the new destinations you plan to hit, and you're even stopping to sing along to some of the great music that's becoming the soundtrack of your adventure. But sometimes, still, even with all that effort of watching how and what gets onto that bus, do you ever feel like your bus could still end up off course? Do you ever take a wrong turn and not have any idea how you got there? Do you ever worry that you're still in danger of swerving back into the old patterns or self-sabotaging behaviors that you've already recognized? Do you ever feel like sometimes you get steered off course and it's almost as if someone else got a hold of the wheel of your bus and is driving your bus in the wrong direction? It can't be you driving. You already know you don't want to go there. You know that road has more potholes than you can handle. You know, but you still are getting off course. In this case, it is not an outside force that's affecting which way you're going or how fast or how distracted you're driving. It seems to be coming from the inside, from someone whose decisions are based on fear, past pain, or outdated beliefs that you already know are not true. You've already proved them wrong. The reason you could feel this way is because there is someone else driving the bus, and that person is coming from inside the bus. And in today's lesson, we're going to learn just exactly who that could be and why they try to hijack the wheel. So a few years ago, over a decade into this work, I was introduced to something by my therapist that unequivocally changed my world for the better. It was called Internal Family Systems, or IFS. And today I'm introducing it to you for the same exact reason. Internal family systems is a modality of psychology that's used in therapy and counseling that was created back in the 80s by a doctor of psychology named Dr. Richard Schwartz. So Dr. Schwartz was a family therapist that stumbled upon this theory after noticing that many of his clients were experiencing internal conflicts that kept them from living their best lives. As a family therapist, he noticed that a lot of the internal conflicts started to mirror the same concepts that were present in larger family systems. In essence, what he observed was that everyone he treated seemed to have multiple voices or family members that had different roles within themselves in their own psyche, each with its own feelings, its own thoughts, and its own behaviors. And he called these internal family members our parts. And rather than viewing them as signs of fragmentation in our mind, like schizophrenia, Schwartz saw them as natural and normal and as being part of every single human being on the planet. And when he started digging into knowing each of these parts individually and what their roles are, he realized that these parts all work together as a part of one big system, which is our whole wise self. So Schwartz narrowed down the categories of parts to just four. First, he believed that every single person has a core, compassionate, wise part. He calls this the wise self. This part is the one that leads from a place of compassion and creativity and curiosity and confidence and courage and calmness and connectedness and clarity. And this part is present all the time, is persistent in what they know they want, takes perspective on everything that's happening to them as for them or through them, right? Has playfulness and a sort of lightness about them, and has patience. He called these the 8 C's and the 4 P's of wise mind. However, that was only one part. Schwartz also identified that in every single human, there are also 3 types of competing parts that each are constantly trying to lead with their own agenda. Our exiles lead with deep-seated feelings of shame and sadness and fears. Our managers lead with safety and control and hypervigilance. And our firefighters lead with impulsivity and anything that can provide distraction from any sort of emotional pain or discomfort. And Schwartz's research showed that by learning to identify, understand, and harmonize with all of our parts within ourselves, we could all achieve this profound healing and be able to fully untangle from those limiting beliefs and thoughts and habits and actions that keep us all from living a feel-good life. So I'm going to take a few minutes today to dig deeper into all of these parts so that you can really understand why today's lesson is titled, Don't Let Your Parts Drive the Bus. Because we never want them in the driver's seat. We want them there. They're all a part of us, but they don't get to drive. So IFS tells us that all our parts have a seat. Just like a family unit made up of all members of the family on a road trip, even the most annoying and destructive ones are part of the family. They are going on that trip. What we're going to learn here is that there can be many exiles on our bus, many managers on our bus, and many firefighters on our bus. But there is only one wise self. There's only one of those that is you. And it is the best version of you. And it is the one who is you at your core, the core of the core values that we've identified already. And that is only the you that should be driving the bus. That means you are the one making the decisions on where to go. And you're the one that gets to figure out how to get there, because you, the wise self, is in true alignment with your values and your resources and your goals. And you're not confused. The other parts on your bus might have ulterior motives. So let's check them out. First, we're going to look at the exiles. So the exiles on our bus are the wounded parts of us that carry deep-seated emotions. Like I said, it could be shame or sadness or fear or grief. And it stems from these past traumas, capital T or lowercase t, or painful experiences that we've had in our life. They sit in the back of the bus, and they're sometimes quiet out of fear of disturbing you or not being seen or heard or understood if they do stand up, or out of fear that our next type of part is going to push them away. But these exiles, they could include a misunderstood 4-year-old version of you who was labeled difficult by your parents simply because you had an adventurous and independent spirit. Or an 8-year-old version of you who was scared and alone and felt completely abandoned. Or a 13-year-old version of you who was physically hurt or felt deeply rejected after trying something on her own. Or a 20-year-old version of you that made some serious life mistakes and now carries with that this profound regret or disappointment or even despair about the choices they made. So because of these feelings of your exiles, because those feelings were so intense, your mind formed these other 2 sets of parts whose sole job is going to be to keep these exiles hidden away so that the pain or the discomfort or the shame or any of those lower level emotions don't get felt again in that capacity. The managers and the firefighters that have seats on our bus were all brought in at different and specific moments of your life during the events or the challenges where you needed help in easing the pain or the discomfort that the exiles were made to feel. So, if we can find an exile, we usually can find a manager or a firefighter that existed at the exact same time to help you feel better about whatever it was that was going on. So, let's talk about the managers. Our managers are like the bus monitors. They believe that if some of our exiles or other managers get to the driver's seat, they might cause a crash. They could create a riot, or they could destabilize the bus enough to ruin the trip completely. Within the IFS model, the manager parts are the proactive, protective voices in our heads. They actually can take on various forms. And like I said, there are usually a lot of them on the bus. We don't just have one manager in our head. We have this manager and this manager and this manager and this manager. And sometimes they don't all agree. So there's this internal conflict going on if they want you to take a different path based on past experiences and past exiles that they are trying to comfort or keep safe. Okay. So there are four main types of managers: persecutors, people pleasers, the perfectionists, and the protectors, right? So let's talk about the persecutors. I also call this the inner critic. So the inner critic is constantly monitoring your actions and your thoughts. It's judging and shaming you to keep you from making mistakes. It may say things like, "You're not good enough to do that. You always mess things up." Its goal is to prevent future failure. So it doesn't care how you feel in the exact moment because it knows it can handle what you're taking from it. Its goal is to prevent failure or rejection in the future. And though its methods could be harsh, it's really keeping you from trying new things that could result in uncertain feelings that could bring out an old exile. The next one is the perfectionist or the controller. This type sets extremely high standards and rigid rules for your behavior. And that is to help you avoid any risk of error because discomfort comes with error. It may insist on everything being done exactly one way or just right, and can become very frustrated or anxious when things don't go according to the plan. Remember, it's trying to keep you safe from the unknown. It's trying to make sure that you get ahead of every rule that you didn't even know existed so that you can never mess up and feel the shame of judgment. Another type of manager is the people pleaser. We all know the people pleaser. It's focused on gaining external approval and avoiding conflict at a whole. This manager part prioritizes other people's needs above our own. It may push you to say yes, even when you really want to say no, all in an effort to keep a relationship smooth and maintain a sense of safety. And then there's the protectors. Our protectors are simply labeled as protectors because they take on this broad role in warding off any emotional or physical harm. They are protecting us by enforcing these strict boundaries around certain topics or behaviors, ensuring that you don't encounter perceived threats, even if those restrictions can limit your opportunities or your growth, limit your connectivity, limit your ability to stay in community with other people. Remember, they are there to protect you. And so they're going to have you avoid a lot of things that you may want to address, but they cannot allow you to address them. So each of these manager parts, they operate with the belief that strict control or self-criticism is necessary to keep you safe. They don't want those exiles to have access to you. They don't want the potential pain or failure in the future either. That potential pain or failure in the future can bring an exile out. And then they're going to have to re-feel all these things that were felt the first time around. So their intentions are really rooted in protection and in love. But their methods are usually blocking us from experiencing joy, taking healthy risks, or moving forward with our goals. The managers keep us below the line and prevent us from raising up to the top. Recognizing these different types of managers is an important step in understanding your internal dynamics and ultimately in reclaiming your wise self as the leader of the bus that's going to steer you towards your feel good life. Your managers feel like it's their job to make sure that an exile does not bring up any old feelings of hurt or despair, and they take their job really seriously. They also work diligently to keep you safe by controlling your behavior and managing your environment. They are making sure any further pain doesn't happen. In order to do that, they like to play small. They want everything predictable and organized, and they tend to develop strict rules and routines to avoid any potential deviation of your comfort or vulnerability. For instance, a manager might have been created at a moment when you experienced extreme pain from being called fat as a kid. So now its sole job is to protect you from ever feeling that hurt again. So to do that, it uses extreme pressure. Maybe you create an OCD-like habit of exercising twice a day or making sure you're counting every morsel of food that you put in your mouth. And if you fail to do this, the manager will show up and it will shame or blame you and remind you of what's at stake if you don't comply to those rules. And that will bring you huge feelings of shame and self-doubt, right? As you can see, the managers are not primarily focused on your happiness or even with new wounds that they might inflict on you. They are not concerned at all about how new rules or guidelines are going to affect your mental well-being because it can handle your mental well-being. It's part of your mental well-being. They focus solely on your safety from the previous emotions, even if that means keeping you from making the choices that serve your true goals in the long run. And then we have firefighters. So the firefighters, they're a big one. When your pain or emotional overwhelm comes out, and when the manager's strategies aren't enough or become too harsh for you, your mind creates firefighters. These are parts of you that are there to quickly distract you or numb you from anything going on. Your firefighters are going to prompt behaviors like addictions, like binge eating, like substance abuse, like sex addiction, or other impulsive things that are going to swiftly take your mind off of whatever was going on and extinguish whatever feelings were going on or the managers that were pushing you too hard, right? If you had a difficult time sticking to your healthy routine, right? Maybe go back to that. But maybe you skipped some workouts or you overindulged as a way to relieve some of the pressure. Well, you may get a firefighter that steps in with this extreme coping mechanism, such as drinking wine. And now you can justify breaking your rules. I used to have a firefighter like this. I used to be so strict with my eating that if I drank 2 glasses of wine, I knew that I could indulge in whatever it was and I could blame it on the wine. That's a firefighter, right? Firefighters are coming up with these creative ways to distract you. And they might be at odds with the managers because the managers are trying to get you to do something. And now the firefighters are trying to keep you from doing it because it's too difficult or emotional for you. And this causes even more internal conflict because they use these methods that, while effective in the moment, can lead to further complications later on. Sounds pretty interesting, right? Well, now that we've outlined the parts, I want you to take a minute to understand this. There are multiple exiles, multiple managers, and multiple firefighters on our bus. So you can imagine the chaos that might go on when they're all battling for a chance to drive the bus where they want it to go and force you in directions that your wise self knows you don't want to go. So when you notice that you're veering off course for reasons that don't stem from an external cause, this is the time to look inward. This is the time to say what part is trying to speak. For instance, why do you feel hesitant about applying for an amazing job that excites you? Perhaps it's a manager that jumped in the driver's seat to steer you away because it had a fear that stepping out of your comfort zone wasn't safe. Or why do you sabotage your health goals even when nothing external is standing in your way? Maybe our manager is protecting an exile from the perceived pain of change. Even at social gatherings, if you find yourself overindulging in alcohol and then regretting it later, maybe a firefighter is stepping in to numb the uncomfortable feelings of maybe anxious social worries that you have, right? Fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of not being included. Once you start to recognize the patterns that your parts are taking, you can start to sit firmly in the driver's seat, fully aware that these parts are trying to sneak in and take control. You might need to shout, "Don't let the parts drive us," And then with a smile, thank them for their good intentions, let them know you're going to consider their feelings, and gently guide them back to their proper seats while you decide which direction the bus gets to go. Because you can be confident that your wise self really can lead you with compassion and creativity and curiosity and all those 8 C's and 5 P's. The amazing truth is that every part of you, no matter how disruptive it may seem, was created to help you. It came to you in times of extreme vulnerability. The exiles have carried your pain for so long. They've preserved these memories of the past because they believe you needed them to. The managers have worked tirelessly to shield you from the past and the future, even if their overprotection limited your growth. And the firefighters, though they may cause a huge amount of damage when they intervene, stepping in too quickly to douse these overwhelming emotions, they were always there to help. In real life, think about it. The firemen don't worry about the water damage when they're trying to put out the flames. They're just trying to put out the flames. So now it's time to get to know each one of your parts so we don't have any collateral damage to the good they're trying to do for us. Since each part of you was created to help you during times of extreme vulnerability, they are all part of you. However, their work in these roles is probably over by now. You don't need most of them anymore because the true you has healed from a lot of those old painful feelings or beliefs. But your parts, they don't know that. They're operating on these outdated assumptions and beliefs. They think you're still the vulnerable person that they need to protect. They think you're still the same age that you were. They think you haven't grown or matured and that you, the real you, can't handle things on your own. They think they have to step in. What the truth is, what I know is, you're older now, you're wiser now, and you're stronger now. And you have more tools now than you've ever had before to go back and revisit a lot of these hurt feelings or emotions. And you've learned this great gift of discernment where you can go back and maybe see new perspectives to even the most challenging and painful people, situations, and events that you've had in your life. So once you get to know your parts, you can have conversations with them. You can gently remind them that it's time to work together differently, that it's time for them to pick a new role to help you in a new, more constructive way, that you're going to share where your life is going, and that when you drive the bus, you can let them know that they can trust you to take it where it's supposed to go, toward the feel-good life that all of our parts really want and deserve. Imagine you're driving the bus on a road to finding a new, more rewarding, higher paying, and fulfilling job. The manager jumps in to try and take the wheel, reminds you of all the reasons you're not equipped for that job. It's driven by fear of stepping out of your comfort zone. The firefighter might nudge you towards self-soothing, like maybe smoking weed to cope with social anxiety. And now you just sabotage your chances of applying for that job because you have to take a drug test, so now you have to wait another month. Do you see how subtle it is? You say to yourself, why did I do that? But you let the parts take the wheel. Once you can recognize these subtle interventions, you can thank them for their good intentions and gently guide them back to their proper seats. You can see the firefighters jumping in like, you may want to go smoke a little bit. And you could be like, I do, but what I want more is this job. So I'm going to put that off for a little bit so that I can pursue this dream job, right? We can start to talk to them, not with anger. The best part about IFS is identifying all of our parts. Some are so evident, they're with you all the time. They're probably driving more than you'd like to admit, but others have been quietly hidden away for a very long time under the strict protection of the managers. Those exiles are the parts that really want to meet you. They're the ones that think they're still that age. They still believe they're vulnerable to whatever it was. They need a loving and compassionate conversation where you can let them know that their pain has been felt and dealt with and can no longer harm them. Where you can let them know there might be a different way to see it, where you can let them know who you are now and how that challenge or incident or experience has molded you and changed you and created this version of you, and that this version of you is pretty fucking great. If you can get to know your managers and your firefighters, and you can earn their trust, they're going to lead you to your exiles. If you can start to notice your managers and your firefighters, they're going to lead you to the parts of you that need to be healed, that need to be talked to. They're going to lead you to the exiles, and you can ensure the whole bus that you're not only okay to drive, but you're demanding that you're taking back the driver's seat and owning that wheel. Once you notice them, you're going to see which unhealed internal parts are going to try to jump into that seat. And you're going to steer them away from that seat on that bus. And you're going to, by understanding them, you're going to invite them into conversation. You're going to thank them for their service to you, and you're going to help them find a new role on the bus that doesn't interfere with your goals. This is how you reclaim your inner leadership. This is how you reclaim your self-trust. This is how you create self-love beyond any kind of self-love and keep your wise self firmly in control and going towards the feel-good life that you want and deserve. So in our next activity, we're actually going to meet apart. Before we get there, I want you to just take a minute to reflect on your bus and the parts that you've probably already figured out have seats. In your worksheet, try and figure out who some exiles might be, who some managers might be, who some firefighters might be. Try and figure out who the wise self is and how she shows up when she's driving. When you feel triggered or overwhelmed, or you notice self-sabotaging behaviors, who is it that's driving that bus? It's usually a sign that it's one of the parts that's taking control. It doesn't have our best interest at heart. And now we're going to do a very interesting meditation. And I want to help you start meeting some of your parts. I'm going to invite you to engage in a quiet conversation designed to help you connect with one of your inner parts, to get to understand its role and assure it of all the reasons why you, wise self, can be trusted to take the driver's seat when they show up. As you meet this part, remember to try and see it with love and compassion and gratitude for all that it's done to keep you safe, not with any kind of resentment or low-level emotion for holding you back. This work is not about blame or shame. It's about healing and forgiveness and growth. We have to thank our parts. We have to hear our parts. We have to understand what purpose they all served in our lives and let them know that we are there with them. And then with our new wisdom, with our new confidence, with our new courage, we alone are going to learn how to integrate all of our parts into a more harmonious seating order on our bus, where our wise self is always in the driver's seat. So let's prepare for this meeting. We're going to take a deep breath and close our eyes. And we're going to transition into a guided meditation, knowing that this is a powerful step in reclaiming that self-love and that self-trust and moving us even closer to our feel-good life. Please settle into a comfortable seated position. Sit up tall with your head and your shoulders aligned over your hips, and feel the solid support of the surface beneath you. As you inhale, close your eyes and gently turn your focus inward. We're going to take several deep, slow breaths, inhaling to the count of 8. And exhaling fully. With each breath, allowing any tension to melt away as you become fully present in this very moment. Imagine now that you're standing before a big, bright bus. This bus represents your mind, a vehicle that carries all the different parts of you. You see the bus and open your mind with a sense of curiosity and readiness for a new adventure. The bus door opens and you confidently step on board. You realize this is your bus, and you look around and you notice that every seat is occupied by a different part of you. At the driver's seat is a sign that says, wise self, and you know that this seat is for the best version of you, the you that is now, the you that is calm and clear and compassionate, creative and curious, confident and brave and welcoming and playful and patient. This seat is reserved for the one that truly deserves to drive the bus, the part of us that should always be in command, the part that is responsible for guiding our bus to a feel-good life, a life we want, a life we know we deserve. Picture yourself taking the seat confidently at the wheel. You are radiating warmth and balance and excitement. You can feel the strength and the clarity that come from knowing that only you can steer you in the direction of your dreams. So as you sit in this big comfy seat, you start to drive and you take a look in the rearview mirror. With gratitude and love, you see so many parts of you in the seats behind you. Some are happy and laughing. Some are causing a bit of a ruckus. Some are solemn. Some are nervous. Some look stoic or stern. Some are at peace. And some, they can't even make eye contact with you at all. You know these are all versions of you. And you know that they all took a seat on your bus at different times of your life. And you know that you can't see some of the passengers because those are so sad that they're hiding. Those are the passengers that are carrying some very vulnerable memories and thoughts, and they're not willing to expose themselves. And that's okay. Because we know with calmness and clarity that they are there and that we love them. You realize there's an empty seat right behind you. This seat can be filled with a passenger that you can easily carry on a conversation with while you drive. One that can keep you company on this trip, that maybe you can get to know a little bit better, or that you haven't seen in a while and you would really love to catch up with. You look in that rearview mirror, you take the inventory, and you decide who it is that you'd like to talk to today. And you gently invite them into your awareness. Maybe it's a manager that has been working overtime to keep you safe, or a firefighter that's been jumping in that driver's seat way too often. Or maybe it's an exile that has something to say, that maybe was hiding or unable to make eye contact with you. Remember, there are many, many, many parts of you on board. Your bus is full of managers and firefighters and several versions of the younger you. And you get to choose who you'd like to come and sit in the passenger seat next to you so that you can chat. Visualize the part of you that you're inviting up. They're approaching you now. They're looking at the seat, and they're deciding if they want to take a seat. You invite them with kind, loving eyes, and they accept. Notice how this part is showing up. It might not be a person approaching. It could be a feeling, or a thought, or a voice, or an image, or a color, a shape, or simply just an energy. Doesn't matter what they look like. You know who they are. And you gently welcome this part by silently saying, "Hello there. I'm so happy to get to sit with you. I'd like to understand you more and learn more about you." Your part feels calm and welcomed and loved. And as you sit with this part, a gentle dialogue starts to emerge. You might be asking, "What's your role in my life? How do you help me or try to protect me? When did you take on this role?" You might want to ask the part if they have a name. Even though it's a part of us, they may go by a different name. You might want to ask what they think would happen if they were not on the bus. Maybe you could ask, when it drives, where is it trying to take you? Or if there's anything keeping them from being who they really want to be. Part might be quiet at first, not sure if they should open up or exactly what they want to say. You might be able to give them a gentle nudge and ask them if there's something they're ready to let go, or if there's something they need help carrying, or if there's something they want to ask you. Parts are here to help me, but I like to ask them, how can I help you today? Allow a few moments for the part to respond in its own way. It could be through words, sensations, images, memories, or simply just a feeling. Just notice whatever arises during this interaction. Take a minute to go inward and observe how you feel towards this part. Can you hold space for it without judgment? Can you sympathize with it, with what it's trying to say? With what it's trying to protect you from? Can you ask it how old it thinks you are? Or if they're open to other ways that you can help them help you? About a minute now to explain to this part who you are. Let it know how old you are, what you've accomplished, and what you are so proud of in your life. If it opened up to you about when it took its role, let it know what's changed since then. Let your heart open with clarity and compassion. And if you or this part feel any resistance or fear or judgment, gently just ask that feeling to step aside so that you can remain open and honest in your dialogue. Gently begin to bring your awareness back to the wheel of your bus. Look out into the horizon, assured of your position in the driver's seat and satisfied with this exchange with your part. Kindly communicate to this part how much you appreciated the chance to get to know them today, and invite them to speak to you regularly with their concerns or their progress. As you look out in the road ahead of you, begin to look for a spot to pull the bus over and park. A safe and open spot where you can step off, take a deep breath, and look back, seeing all of your parts safe and satisfied in their seats. Lovingly look at them, and you honor who they are, and you send them a loving message. And with that, you begin to return to the present, and you thank your wise self for staying at the wheel and for creating a peaceful, loving, compassionate atmosphere on the bus for all of your parts today. And you watch that wise self version of you walk back onto the bus and take its seat with a smile. Feel your heart and the calm excitement that now resides within you for the future and your relationship with all of your parts. And when you're ready, gently begin to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Attention back to your breath with an 8-second inhale. As you exhale, slowly open your eyes, knowing that you have taken a powerful step in reclaiming your inner leadership and your seat in the driver's seat of your life. Now you can grab your journal or your worksheet and just take a few minutes to write about this experience. You can either write freely about what you saw and felt and heard. Give as many details or as few as you'd like. You can use some prompts to guide your reflections, like, how did it feel to be the wise self driving your bus? What feelings could you identify with when you stepped into that role? Consider if you had any sensations around the 8 C's and the 5 P's of wise mind. The compassion, the creativity, the curiosity, the confidence, the courage, the calm, the connectedness, the clarity, the presence, persistence, perspective, playfulness, or patience. What did you feel when you were sitting in that seat? Which part of you did you choose to meet today? How did you choose that part? Was it someone you wanted to get to know? Or was it someone that raised their hand for the chance to get to know you? Or to have your ear for just a few minutes? Write down how this part appeared to you. Was it a feeling, a thought, a color, an energy, or even an actual image of a person? Describe what it looked like in as much detail as you can. What did this part want to say to you, either in words or in sensations? What did you learn about this part's role or intention in your life? You might want to answer some of these questions or all of them. It's completely up to you. Wind it down by asking yourself, how did you feel about the conversation you had with this part? Did it make you sad, happy, disappointed, worried, joyful? What is one small step you can take to safely integrate what this part had to say into your wise self's decision-making process going forward? Allow your thoughts to flow freely. Jot them down on the paper, and remember that there is no right or wrong answer, only awareness. As I leave you to finish this journaling activity, I want to thank you for joining me on this inner journey today as we learn about IFS and its wonderful ability to help us connect to all of our inner parts to create a peaceful mind and a calmer life. Remember, meeting your parts and reclaiming your inner leadership is an ongoing process. Self-trust takes time. Recognizing when someone other than your wise self is trying to take the wheel is the first step in gently guiding your bus back to its true direction. And by connecting with each and every one of your parts and inviting them into a compassionate dialogue, you can allow them to voice their concerns in a constructive way so that you can build a stronger foundation of self-trust and inner balance. Take some time over the coming days to notice if any other parts might be trying to communicate with you, and be open to what they have to say. You may want to re-listen to this meditation and pick a different person from the bus to sit next to you. If you find yourself going astray from the thoughts and actions you want to have, just revisit your journal notes and reflect on how your internal dialogue could give you the clues to what is really going on. Take one big final deep breath together to honor the space you've created within and to know that your inner journey continues one step at a time. Thank you for your openness and courage today to go on this beautiful adventure with me into the internal world of family systems.